May 2008, an eruption began on Mount Etna, Sicily, manifesting itself as a series of vents, initially emitting spectacular lava fountains along a fissure that opened up high in the Valle del Bove on the eastern flank of the volcano. The highest point of the eruptive fissure was at an altitude of about 2,800 metres, and the fissure itself extended downslope for about a kilometre. This particular style of eruption is aptly described by the Italian term Bottoniera or buttonhole. With flights to Sicily booked prior to the onset of this eruption, we were hoping to have good weather conditions to observe the intriguing Bottoniera. But getting close enough to gain good and safe views of the ongoing activity was to present us with a frustrating challenge. The evening we arrived, we headed out to a viewpoint we knew well, one that could be reached in about 45 minutes on foot.
It's now probably about 11:15 at night. We're up on Monte Zuccolaro, fourth time on Etna, fourth eruption. We're joined by Steve over here, who's come over specifically because we're here, and he knows that every time we're here, Etna goes bang. So we're going to go up there with a guide tomorrow, and fingers crossed, time for a beer.
Despite the fact that we know Mount Etna and a number of the high-level routes reasonably well, hiring a guide was a must for our first full day. This eruption was the most dangerous we'd yet encountered, the whole area being difficult to access and way off any designated trails. The eruption itself was highly unpredictable in its nature. Only one of the volcano guides could show us the preferred routes to reach the activity and watch it in relative safety, and provide us with some first-hand information about the violent and sporadic outbursts from the series of vents along the fissure. It soon became apparent that, although one of the two main active vents produced regular spatterings of hot lava shreds and was fairly consistent in its behaviour, the other one, just upslope of this, was virtually invisible most of the time. However, it produced random, sometimes extremely powerful, explosions of lava shreds, gas and hot ash every 5 to 20 minutes. After spending some considerable time watching and photographing the activity from a safe vantage point, Marco, our guide, showed us his current party trick, a demonstration of the intense heat that remained just under the surface of the 4-week-old lava field we'd been standing on for the last few hours.
There is a big fracture of 1989.
Oh, yes.
From southeast crater just to the...
With a final stop at the magnificent Belvedere to take in the sweeping views of the Valle del Bove, it was time to head back down the ash slopes of La Montagnola before night started to fall. We had seen reports and photographs of some other interesting fissures that had opened up on the eastern side of the volcano. We knew it was not possible to reach these by skirting around the southern flank of the volcano due to the ongoing eruption, but wondered if we could access them by contouring around the base of the top craters. A long day's walk, but not impossible. If this were to prove too difficult, plan B was to head up to the top of the northeast crater, something we'd never done before. Over lunch at the Torre del Filosofo, we already had our concerns as the cloud rolled in to obscure the bright blue sky. Heading up past the Rifugio Alpino, the point where the tour buses stop, we immediately found ourselves confronted by snow. Not the last remaining fragments of late snowmelt, but walls of snow several feet high, interspersed with layers of black ash from the last few months' eruptions. But you can actually see there's like holes in the top of it as well, where it's all falling through.
Yeah?
Yeah, stuff you actually see it running through.
Camera's just there if you want.
The jeep track we followed presented no problems, but within half an hour we had totally lost visibility up to the tops and down into the valleys as damp, icy clouds settled in for the afternoon. By the time we reached the junction to the path up to the northeast crater, the verdict was unanimous. It wasn't going to be possible to reach either of our planned destinations today. We retraced our steps in near zero visibility, clad in full winter gear, with snow and icy winds howling around us. It was the 6th of June. So we've decided to do a lower level walk from Monte Intraleo up to the Refugio Galvarina and back. We set off at about 12 o'clock. Weather's fairly cloudy but quite nice, and it's just gone 5 to 1 in the afternoon now, and we've heard 3 big bangs which we think, if we're lucky, might just be Strombolian noises, Strombolian eruptions from the top of Etna.
We're on the footpath on our way up to Refugio Galvarini. Behind me is Etna, and you probably just make out she's very much covered in cloud, which is why we're doing a low level walk. As Nikki said, we heard a few explosions a little while back. It's now all quiet, so we'll carry on our walk, see what we see, keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow.
The Refugio Galvarina is one of a series of alpine huts that are used by trekkers who are undertaking multi-day treks on the volcano. Free to stay in, they usually consist of a single room with simple furniture, a fireplace for heat and a source of water. There are no other facilities. We duly signed our names in the visitor's logbook whilst having our lunch and retraced our footsteps to complete our day's walk.
It's now Sunday morning. Behind me is Etna. As you can see, clouds are coming in, rolling in again, so up top's not going to be too pleasant come lunchtime. The nice thing is that we can hear very regular Strombolian activity. The eruption's obviously livened up a little bit, so the plan for this morning is to go for a little bit of a stroll at a lower level, see what the weather does, and hopefully this evening we're going to take ourselves up to a viewpoint part way on the ridge between Bottoniera and Monte Etna, and with any luck we'll be able to see a bit of what's going on then.
These really crappy crunchy bars. They're not very nice.
Oh, no.
I don't think you would you? The mountain foxes on Etna are both well known and well loved. Their silver black winter coats gradually revert to a more familiar foxy red in the summer.
Yeah.
Considered to be an icon of the high slopes of the volcano, these small, gentle creatures make a living foraging for grubs and berries, but easily become accustomed to the more varied delights of human food, and can become friendly enough to literally eat out of one's hand.
The lava. Dicky Attenborough. Etna, News at 10.
Our route today crossed the very end of some recent flows of our lava, exceptionally difficult terrain on which to walk, being completely loose and liable to collapse in an avalanche of sharp rock at any moment. Carefully picking a traverse through this rocky wilderness requires skill and judgment to avoid a nasty fall and unwanted bloodshed. For our companion, less used to walking on the loose lava than ourselves, progress was painfully slow. Having safely navigated our way across this lava flow, we climbed up onto the ridge, only to find that a second flow had to be negotiated before we found ourselves once more on terra firma. From here, easy going through the verdant pine forest led us back down to the botanical gardens and our starting point at Piano Vittori. A quick stop at Hotel Casaro was followed by a pleasant lunch at Refugio Sapienza before we started on our second walk of the day. This route would take us up via the Schiena dell'Asino ridge onto the southern flank of the Valle del Bove. If the weather cleared as the day went on, we expected to gain a vantage point that would be over a mile closer to the Bottoniera than the viewpoint at the top of Monte Soccolaro. As you can see, the weather is beautiful, i.e. we can't see a thing, but we are walking through a most beautiful landscape, and you may just be able to hear Etna making some nice Strombolian bang noises in the background. I think we've finally found one of the INGV webcams. Yeah. This should be the Schiena dell'Asino webcam. And with any luck, we might be on television. Hello, Mum! Oh, and Dad.
Mumsy and Daddy.
Fantastically, the weather has just started to clear and you can now see Etna just coming out of the clouds. It's a fantastic view. In the far distance you can just make out the lava flows just coming down, steaming away just before this next piece of cloud comes over. The explosion's clearly going on, so I expect we're going to climb up a little bit higher, try and get the best vantage point we can, hope the weather continues to clear.
Compelling cloud patterns swirled endlessly up the valley, giving us tantalising glimpses of the erupting vents and lava streams as the sun and the temperatures started to drop. Well, as you can see, we're perched here in the near darkness on the edge of a colossal drop into the Valle del Bove, which we don't intend to descend right now. As we'd hoped, the clouds have actually cleared to some degree. We've still got a bit of cloud, but as you can see behind me, we have some very, very beautiful lava flows, quite active lava. Higher up we have got some Strombolian eruptions, but they're mainly over the ridge where you can't easily see them, so we can only see the really powerful ones. It does look as though we've gone from having one bit of Strombolian eruption to a couple side by side, and maybe something lower down might just be the lava. It's impossible to tell from here, but we've certainly got an eruption by night. It's very, very beautiful, and we're just enjoying ourselves. Wow. Once darkness had fallen, we were able to see the advancing lava river tumbling slowly down. It was with some reluctance we finally turned around to descend the stony path that led back down to the car. Right, it's now Monday, it's cloudy again. We're on the cable car on the way up to Montagnola to walk up to have a look at the eruptive fissures. We've just had a look on the INGV reports and it looks like there's actually been a slight increase in activity, so we're hoping we're going to be able to see something. Certainly the fissure still appears to be flowing from what we can see. The weather doesn't look too brilliant, but it is supposed to clear up, so we'll see how it goes. HRH and Matt, who are sitting opposite me, can see all the blue sky above. So clearly the weather's going to be absolutely brilliant up top. We're going to get perfect views and there are going to be no clouds this evening. And indeed, here at last was the blue sky we'd been promised. The magical beauty of Etna's southeast crater shimmered like a mirage in the brilliant sunlight, as if to beckon us towards her. Rarely had we felt so intensely the power and sheer presence of this volcano, and we felt both drawn to her and afraid of her as we watched for signs of danger. We've arrived at the Hornito on the lava flows from the May 2008 eruptions, 10th of May, which were from the pit crater at the base of southeast crater. We're looking towards some fairly violent explosions at the moment over on the eruptive fissure. About 20 minutes, half an hour ago, we bumped into Rosario Basile, who's one of the alpine guides, who has actually said it's not safe to go any further, which is much as we suspected. The Strombolian eruptions we're seeing are much more powerful than we saw when we were over here the other day. They're rising to something like 3 or 4 times the height we saw them the other day, if not more, which is several hundred metres, I think. It's fairly random and sporadic, and as I said earlier, very violent, so we're staying at a safe distance, I think. If things get livelier, obviously we'll move back, but it seems reasonably okay here at the moment, and we expect to see some rather fantastic fireworks as we go on into the evening. But Etna once again had other ideas, as we waited shivering for darkness to start to fall, having made yet another 700-metre ascent to reach a good vantage point. The spectacular display diminished in the space of just 2 hours to nothing more than a gentle sparkle. Somehow, for some reason, we just seem to have missed the action yet again.
At the hotel, we've just had quite a long walk back. I think it's fair to say some of us are more knackered than others. Up to the top, seen bang bangs, blah blah blah. Pretty sound. 1 day of holiday left, which we'll probably not do very much with. The important thing now is to have one of these.
Beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
But of course we couldn't just take it easy. With the promise of better weather at last, we'd made our minds up that we would aim to finally conquer one of the routes above the Rifugio Citelli that had eluded us in the past. Tired but triumphant, we eventually found ourselves striking out onto the breathtaking ridge of the Serra del Concazze in swirling mist, one of the most beautiful ridge walks one could possibly imagine. This was walking on Mount Etna as it really should be, wild, rugged, demanding and exhilarating. Yet, despite the thrill of achievement, 6 days hard trekking were beginning to take their toll, and we knew then that it was time to take a break.
It's our last day on Etna. Lunchtime, just stopped to have a bite of food. We're on the ridge that runs up on the north side of the Valle del Bove, up towards Pizzi di Neri. It would be very nice to get up to the top, but I think time and energy levels probably will stop that. Down below us we can hear the eruption carrying on very nicely, still hear bangs and what have you, and you can hear the lava rolling down. Get a view down, last view of Etna before we go for a pizza and then head home.
We'd finally gained a view of the lava flows from the Bottoniera that we'd been chasing all week. Gazing out across the immense gash in the landscape that is the Valle del Bove, listening to the rolling and crashing of the hot lava advancing slowly, we were torn between heading back to the car or down the steep cliffs into the valley for a closer view of the lava flows. Time, unfortunately, was not on our side and we had to head back. At the end of another week on Mount Etna, the question is not whether we'll be back, but rather when.